Don't you love when developers take an already fantastic game and create a sequel that expands on everything that the previous game had to offer? Well, if you've played the original Tales of Iron and haven't jumped into the sequel yet, that is pretty much what you can expect. I do have a few small gripes with the game, so let's get into my review for Tales of Iron 2 Whiskers of Winter. Tales of Iron 2 is an action 2D platformer, not quite a Metroidvania and not quite a Souls like, but definitely takes inspirations from both genres. The game begins in Winter's Edge, a separate rat kingdom than what was covered in the first game. Winter's Edge is the northernmost rat kingdom, and they once battled the Darkwings, which are bats basically, and drove them off. The Darkwings regrouped for years in their domain called Mount Cauldron and are about to unleash an onslaught on the rats yet again. We play as Arlo, who must battle against the Darkwings and a myriad of other creatures to save his kingdom, as well as surrounding ones, freeing the land from the forces of evil once and for all. The stories were very well done, and the first one was also. I mean, what else can you ask for? You've got Geralt from The Witcher 3 narrating, and a story that has inspirations from Game of Thrones as well as other sources. Combat is heavily inspired by other Souls games, but it's not a Souls like in my opinion. There's no stamina management, no corpse running, but the combat involves dodge rolls and parrying and light and heavy attacks with one and two handed weapons. Much like the first game, there are colored indicators telling the player what actions need to be taken, block, parry, or dodge. The combat system gets a huge upgrade in this game as elemental abilities and status effects are introduced into the gameplay. Each enemy has elemental strengths and weaknesses, and armor and weapons can also protect you against certain elements that enemies may dish out to you. Don't worry though, you don't need to memorize these, as all that information is in a bestiary that gives you all the information once you come across that particular enemy for the first time. The enemy variety is expanded a little from the first game, and the elemental strengths of them and the elements they deal gently force you into changing equipment frequently. Another very cool mechanic that was brought into the game was a whetstone consumable, which reminded me very much of Lies of P. When you use a whetstone, it makes your weapon sharper and plus deals more damage, but will degrade as you use it. Like I said, it is consumable, so use it at your own discretion. I tended to save it for boss fights. There is light base building in the game as you create different shops and upgrade the blacksmith station in Winter's Edge. Doing so will allow you to upgrade your health, buy more consumables, and create a vast variety of weapons and armor. Enemies and bosses will drop crafting materials that can be used at the blacksmith for weapons and armor. You'll also gain access to a shop that can trade resources to gain ones that you may need for crafting. There's a variety of one and two handed weapons that can be acquired and crafted throughout the game, as well as some unique ones, such as boss weapons and armor. Much like the rest of the game, exploration has been expanded, but honestly, it didn't feel like it was very much. You don't need to go off the beaten path very much because between the main and side quests, you'll end up going everywhere on the map. You also get a grappling hook pretty early on, so you're basically Rat Sekiro, which was pretty funny and pretty awesome at the same time. In terms of sound design, I felt all the sound was great and realistic. Boss music was pretty epic, which is always a great thing to have. There were, however, some spots in the game where during encounters the sound could cut in and out, and I think that's because it kind of depended on how much was going on at the screen at the same time. I personally don't feel like there's a lot of replayability with the game. My total playtime clocked in at 14 hours, and I achieved the Platinum Trophy in that time. Unless you feel you want to do another run on hard mode or something, I don't feel the need to play the game again. And that leads me into talking about one of the gripes I had with the game: difficulty. You can change the difficulty in this game, which I welcome, considering you couldn't do that in the first game. Combat in this game and the previous one are brutal, and I feel like the difficulty is really unbalanced in this game. For instance, the first boss can almost one shot you on normal mode, which is absolutely insane in my opinion. Granted, you do have a tiny health bar at the beginning of the game, but still, that's awfully crazy. And if you switch to easy mode, it's actually too easy, and normal mode and hard mode actually felt basically the same to me. I don't think that's just me either. I've watched other creators play the game, and they said basically the same exact thing. So, with all this being said, is Tales of Iron 2 Whiskers of Winter worth playing? Yes, I believe it is. It's priced about the same as the original game, and like I said previously, the game has expanded on mostly everything from the previous game. If you enjoyed the first game, you'll enjoy this one. And with that factoring in my small gripes about the difficulty, I give Tales of Iron 2 a 9 out of 10. But what do you guys think? Have you played the game? Will you be playing it? Let me know in the comments below. Hopefully, you're all doing well, and hopefully, this helps you make a purchase decision. So, stay tuned. More coming at you. Take care.